There comes a point in life when being nice is no longer enough. Not because kindness is weak, not because love is foolish, not because having a soft heart is something to be ashamed of, but because if you live long enough, you start to notice something painful. The world does not always reward sincerity. It often tests it, it studies it, it pressures it. Sometimes it even exploits it. And that realization changes you. Maybe you've been the one who gave people the benefit of the doubt until they taught you why you shouldn't. Maybe you've been the one who stayed loyal while others stayed strategic. Maybe you've sat in silence after a conversation, replaying every word, realizing too late what was really happening. Maybe you've trusted smiles that hid envy, promises that hid convenience, and compliments that hid control. A lot of people know that feeling. That moment when your heart is pure but your innocence starts costing you too much. And that is when you begin to understand something deep. Being good is not enough. You also need to be discerning. You need intelligence that is not just academic but social, not just intellectual but psychological, not just informed but sharp. You need the kind of awareness that sees beneath appearances, the kind of mind that catches what others miss, the kind of presence that makes manipulation expensive. That is what this lesson is about. Not becoming cold, not becoming cruel, not becoming fake, but becoming dangerous in the right way, dangerous to deception, dangerous to flattery, dangerous to confusion, dangerous to people who prey on your guilt, your hope, your loneliness, or your need to be understood. Because there is a version of intelligence that doesn't just help you succeed. It helps you survive. It protects your peace. It guards your calling. It keeps your soul from being casually handed over to people who never earned access to it. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." That line is brutal, because it is true. Most people are not responding to your soul. They are responding to your image, your usefulness, your energy, your social position, your emotional availability, your weaknesses, your patterns, your predictability. And if you don't understand this, you will keep walking through life, assuming everyone is meeting the real you, when in reality many are only interacting with the version of you they can use, label, or control. To become dangerously smart, you have to stop living only from the heart and start living from the heart with eyes open. You need to learn the ruthless lessons most people only understand after betrayal, humiliation, wasted years, and silent regret. So in this lesson we're going to walk through 7 ruthless truths that can change the way you see people, power, relationships, timing, emotion, and yourself. Not so you can become paranoid, but so you can become free. Lesson 1. Stop taking words seriously when patterns tell the real story. One of the first signs of maturity is this. You stop being hypnotized by words. A lot of people are fluent in emotional theater. They know how to sound sincere. They know how to look concerned. They know when to say, "I'm proud of you," "I miss you," "I've got you," "I would never do that," or "you can trust me." But the truly smart person learns that language is cheap when it isn't backed by consistent behavior. If you want to become dangerously smart, train yourself to watch patterns, not performances. Anyone can act right for a day. Anyone can sound wise in one conversation. Anyone can be affectionate when they need something. Anyone can apologize when they're about to lose access to you. Anyone can promise change in the heat of consequence. But patterns reveal what a person is committed to when emotion fades and convenience disappears. This is where many good-hearted people suffer. They are not stupid. They are hopeful. And hope, when not paired with discernment, can make you overlook what is right in front of you. You tell yourself they're just stressed. You tell yourself they didn't mean it like that. You tell yourself maybe they're going through something. You tell yourself everybody makes mistakes. And all of that can be true. But there is a difference between a mistake and a pattern. A mistake is human. A pattern is a message. When someone repeatedly lies, that is a message. When someone only reaches out when they need emotional comfort, money, help, attention, or validation, that is a message. When someone praises you in private but minimizes you in public, that is a message. When someone keeps crossing your boundaries and then blaming your reaction, that is a message. When someone constantly keeps you confused, unstable, and guessing, that is a message. Dangerously smart people do not ignore repeated evidence because they are attached to a preferred fantasy. They respect data. Machiavelli understood this principle in politics, but it applies powerfully to daily life. He saw that appearances can be staged, intentions can be hidden, public language can mask private ambition, In your world, that means a person's words may simply be the costume they wear to move through social situations. So ask yourself, what do they repeatedly do when no one is watching? How do they behave when they are frustrated, jealous, inconvenienced, or denied? How do they treat people who can offer them nothing? How do they react when your growth no longer benefits their ego? That is where truth lives. And here's the hard part. Once you see the pattern, you must respect it. A lot of people become aware but not wise. They notice red flags but then negotiate with them. They detect manipulation but then excuse it because the person is charming, attractive, familiar, spiritual sounding, or emotionally wounded. They see the smoke but refuse to believe there's fire because they want peace more than truth. But real intelligence means you stop negotiating with reality. You stop letting chemistry overrule clarity. You stop letting history overrule evidence. You stop letting guilt overrule self-respect. If someone's words keep telling you one story, and their behavior keeps telling you another, believe the behavior. Words are often what people want you to feel. Patterns are what they are prepared to build. And if you really want to become dangerously smart, learn to sit still long enough to observe without immediately explaining everything away. Silence is one of the greatest truth serums in human interaction. When you stop rushing to fill gaps, rescue tension, or interpret everything generously, people start revealing themselves. The smart person listens. The dangerously smart person listens and remembers. Lesson 2. Understand that people are driven less by logic than by emotion, ego, fear, and self-interest. This is one of the most liberating lessons you can learn. Most people do not make decisions purely based on truth, principle, or reason. They make decisions based on emotion, self-protection, ego, status, fear, insecurity, desire, and perceived advantage. And then they use logic afterward to justify what they already wanted to do. Once you understand this, you stop being shocked by human behavior. You stop asking, why would they do that? It doesn't make sense. It makes sense, just not according to your value system. It makes sense according to their hunger, their fear, their need to save face, their craving for control, their insecurity, their resentment, their image management, their fear of losing power, their addiction to being admired, their inability to tolerate discomfort, their refusal to confront themselves honestly. Machiavelli wrote, "Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, for everyone can see and few can feel." That is one of the coldest truths ever written. Most people do not respond first to substance. They respond to appearance. They respond to confidence, tone, image, popularity, narrative, presentation. They are influenced by what looks strong, what sounds convincing, what appears valuable, and what protects their social identity. That's why people often support charisma over character. That's why people confuse visibility with value. That's why some manipulators thrive while sincere people get overlooked. That's why many people believe what flatters them, not what frees them. If you don't understand human motivation, you will keep expecting people to act from ideals they were never committed to. Dangerously smart people study what moves people beneath the surface. They ask, what does this person fear losing? What image are they trying to protect? What insecurity is hiding underneath this behavior? What emotional payoff are they getting? What need is this conversation really serving? What does this person want from this interaction that they are not saying out loud? This is not cynicism. It is clarity. Think about everyday life. A friend may not be offended by your success itself. They may be offended by what your success makes them feel about their own stagnation. A coworker may not actually dislike you. They may dislike that your discipline exposes their excuses. A romantic partner may not be confused. They may enjoy your availability without wanting the responsibility of fully choosing you. A leader may not be correcting you for your own good. They may feel threatened by your influence. A person may not be just joking. They may be testing how much disrespect you will absorb without responding. See how different life becomes when you stop analyzing only the words and start analyzing the motive. People are often acting out an emotional need long before they are acting out a rational principle. And once you understand that, you become harder to manipulate. Because manipulation often works by getting you to focus on the surface statement while ignoring the deeper agenda. For example, I'm just trying to help you can mean I want control. I care about you can mean I don't want to lose access. I'm being honest can mean I want permission to be cruel. You changed can mean you stopped being easy to manage. I need space can mean I want the benefits without the obligations. I'm only telling you this because I love you. can mean I want to shape your self-image. Now, to be fair, not every statement is manipulative, but dangerously smart people don't evaluate communication only by the sentence. They evaluate it by the emotional pattern, the timing, the power dynamic, the repeated effect, and the speaker's self-interest. This lesson matters spiritually too. Many people think discernment is mystical, when often it begins with honest observation. If someone repeatedly leaves you drained, confused, guilty, diminished, or unstable, that effect matters. Wisdom pays attention to fruit. A person's emotional vocabulary does not necessarily mean they are emotionally healthy. A person's confidence does not mean they are secure. A person's kindness does not mean they are safe. A person's tears do not mean they are truthful. A person's pain does not automatically make them trustworthy. When you become dangerously smart, you stop worshipping appearances and start tracing motives. You realize that beneath almost every major human conflict lies a battle over fear, identity, desire, shame, or control. And when you see that clearly, people become less mysterious, and you become less easily moved by confusion. Lesson 3. Never reveal everything too early. Mystery protects power. A lot of people lose power not because they are weak, but because they are too open too soon. They overshare. They explain too much. They reveal their plans before they are stable. They expose their wounds to people who haven't earned tenderness. They speak from loneliness instead of wisdom. They mistake transparency for intimacy. They think being fully available makes them lovable. But in reality, premature exposure often invites misunderstanding, envy, sabotage, imitation, or disrespect. Dangerously smart people understand timing. They know every truth does not need immediate expression. Every dream does not need early announcement. Every pain does not need a public audience. Every strategy does not need to be explained. Every silence does not need to be filled. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." That quote is usually about leadership, but it points toward a deeper principle. Intelligence reveals itself partly in what you allow close to you, and partly in what you place inside the reach of others. Not everyone deserves full access to your inner world. Some people ask personal questions not because they care, but because information is leverage. Some people celebrate your vision only to study it. Some people draw out your vulnerabilities only to use them later when conflict comes. Some people love hearing your unfinished plans because unfinished plans are easier to discourage. Some people listen with a smile and leave with comparison in their heart. That is why maturity requires selective openness. You can be kind without being exposed. You can be genuine without being transparent to everyone. You can be warm without being readable. You can be loving without surrendering your strategic awareness. One of the most powerful shifts in life is when you stop feeling obligated to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to announce every boundary. You don't have to defend every decision. You don't have to clarify your growth to people committed to misunderstanding it. You don't have to reveal your next move while it is still fragile. Seeds grow in hidden places before they become visible trees. A lot of people kill their own momentum because they keep digging up their lives for external validation. They tell people the idea too soon. They ask the wrong people for feedback. They leak the vision before it has roots. Then the dream gets polluted by mockery, doubt, projection, or premature praise. Both criticism and applause can be dangerous in early stages. Criticism can crush what is still forming. Applause can trick you into feeling finished before you've built anything. Dangerously smart people let things mature in private. They understand that privacy is not secrecy born from shame. It is stewardship born from wisdom. There is a difference between hiding and protecting. Hiding comes from fear. Protecting comes from discernment. And maybe this hits something deeper in you, because some of you learned oversharing from pain. When you felt unseen, you started pouring your inner life out. The moment someone seemed interested. When you felt lonely, attention felt like safety. When you carried silent wounds, being known felt like relief. So you opened too fast, trusted too fast, attached too fast. And then later, you realized the person liked access more than responsibility. That hurts, but it also teaches. Not everybody who listens is loyal. Not everybody who understands you deserves you. Not everybody who feels close to you is called to walk closely with you. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is say less, move quietly, and let results speak later. Mystery unsettles people who are used to easy access. And that is exactly why it protects you. When everything about you is available, people can predict you, manage you, study your weak spots, and interfere with your movement. But when you become internally steady and externally measured, you become much harder to manipulate. You don't need to become secretive. Just stop being prematurely available. There is power in letting people discover you slowly. There is power in withholding conclusions until you have more evidence. There is power in keeping your peace instead of rushing to make yourself understood. There is power in carrying depth that not everyone can immediately read. A river does not announce its depth at the surface. The deepest people rarely do either. Lesson 4. Learn the brutal value of emotional control. If they can provoke you, they can steer you. One of the fastest ways to lose power is to let other people control your nervous system. If someone can easily trigger you, bait you, flatter you, intimidate you, guilt you, or rush you, then in many ways they can steer your behavior. And the moment they can steer your behavior, they can influence your decisions. Once they influence your decisions, they influence your life. This is why emotional control is not just a self-help idea. It is a survival skill. Dangerously smart people understand that emotional reactions are often the doorway through which manipulation enters. A manipulative person may not need to overpower you physically or intellectually. They just need to make you feel something strong enough to bypass your discernment. Urgency, fear, guilt, shame, excitement, desperation, anger, romantic intensity, the need to prove yourself, the need to defend yourself, the terror of being misunderstood, the pain of being rejected. These emotions are not bad, they are human. But if you do not know how to govern them, someone else will learn how to play them. Machiavelli once wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." In modern life, many people command others not by authority, but by emotional leverage. They know what tone gets you apologizing. They know what silence gets you chasing. They know what criticism gets you unraveling. They know what affection gets you attached. They know what withdrawal gets you performing. And if you are unaware of your own emotional vulnerabilities, you will keep calling these patterns complicated when they are actually strategic. This is why self-knowledge matters so much. Ask yourself, what emotion makes me lose perspective fastest? What kind of approval do I crave most? What kind of rejection hurts me disproportionately? What am I afraid people will think about me? What accusation makes me over-explain? What tone makes me collapse into guilt? What type of attention makes me ignore warning signs? That is the map to your manipulation points. Some people are controlled through fear, some through flattery, some through desire, some through pity, some through the need to look good, some through loneliness, some through the fantasy of finally being chosen. A dangerously smart person becomes a student of their own emotional openings, not to shame themselves, to guard themselves. Imagine how many disasters could be avoided if people simply learned to pause. Pause before replying. Pause before confessing. Pause before agreeing. Pause before sending the angry message. Pause before calling back. Pause before posting the reaction. Pause before explaining yourself to someone committed to twisting your words. Pause before making a permanent move based on a temporary feeling. Emotional control is not emotional suppression. Suppression says, "I feel nothing." Control says, "I feel this deeply, but I refuse to let this feeling drive blindly." That distinction matters. Some of the strongest people you know are not the loudest, the coldest, or the most intimidating. They are the ones who can stay clear when everyone else is reactive. The ones who can remain still in a room full of ego. The ones who can hear disrespect without instantly leaking all their strategy through their face. The ones who can absorb information before responding. That kind of calm terrifies chaotic people, because chaos feeds on reaction. Manipulation feeds on urgency. Control feeds on your lack of inner stillness. And maybe this is where a lot of your pain came from. Not because you were foolish, but because you felt everything so intensely. You loved deeply, reacted quickly, trusted the moment, and believed sincerity would protect you. But life taught you otherwise. Life taught you that feeling strongly is not the same as seeing clearly. The goal is not to become numb. The goal is to become anchored. When your emotions become servants instead of dictators, your discernment sharpens, you hear more, you notice more, you reveal less, you choose better, and the people who once counted on your impulsiveness begin to lose access to your energy. That is when your intelligence becomes dangerous. Lesson 5. Most people do not respect what comes too easily. This lesson stings, but it explains a lot. Many people say they want loyalty, availability, forgiveness, patience, honesty, and love. But when these things are given too cheaply, too consistently, and without standards, they often stop being valued. They become expected. Then they become overlooked. Then they become exploited. This is one of the cold truths of human nature. What costs little is often treated lightly. That applies to your time, your attention, your emotional labor, your presence, your forgiveness, your access, your yes. When you are always available, people stop appreciating your availability. When you always answer immediately, they treat your responsiveness like a utility. When you repeatedly excuse disrespect, they stop seeing your grace as mercy and start seeing it as weakness. When you keep giving chances without changed behavior, people don't think what a loving person. Many think there are no real consequences here. Machiavelli wrote, "Familiarity breeds contempt. Short, sharp, unforgettable." Now that doesn't mean you should become distant for the sake of ego or play games to seem valuable. But it does mean that access without boundaries often produces disrespect. Some people only learn your worth through your absence. Some only understand your standards when your availability is withdrawn. Some only become serious when convenience ends. Some only respect a closed door because they never honored an open one. This is not because you are hard to love. It is because many people are trained by patterns, not intentions. If you keep rewarding careless behavior with continued closeness, you teach others that they can mishandle you and still keep you. That lesson will cost you. Dangerously smart people understand that value must be protected by structure. They do not hand out unlimited access in the name of being kind. They do not confuse self-erasure with love. They do not think overgiving creates security. They do not offer premium loyalty to people still behaving with basic inconsistency. There has to be a line. And let's be honest, some of you were raised to feel guilty for having one. Maybe you were taught that saying no is rude, that boundaries are selfish, that being easy to reach makes you a good person, that enduring disrespect is humility, that tolerating everything is what strong people do, that your role is to keep peace even if it costs your identity. But a life without boundaries does not produce peace. It produces resentment, burnout, confusion, and hidden rage. A lot of quiet people are not naturally peaceful. They are simply exhausted from over-accommodating everyone else. And over time, this does something tragic to the soul. You start feeling invisible while constantly being useful. You start feeling emotionally homeless while always being there for others. You start noticing that people love what you provide but rarely ask what it costs you to provide it. That's when bitterness tries to grow. But bitterness is not the answer. Standards are. Healthy distance is not cruelty. Delayed access is not arrogance. Discernment is not selfishness. Letting people feel the consequence of mishandling you is not revenge. It is clarity. A person who truly values you will not require endless depletion as proof of love. A person who truly respects you will not punish you for self-respect. A person who truly cares will not call your boundaries a betrayal just because they can no longer benefit from your lack of them. Your value increases when your life is not instantly available to everyone. Not because you are playing hard to get, but because you are finally acting like your energy is sacred. And it is. Lesson 6. Intelligence is not knowing more. It is seeing what others are pretending not to see. A lot of people think being smart means having information, and information matters. Reading matters. Learning matters. Knowledge matters. But some of the most informed people in the world are still socially blind, emotionally. Dangerous intelligence goes beyond information. It is perception. It is the ability to notice contradictions without needing them to be announced. It is the ability to hear what was not said. It is the ability to sense when a room shifts. It is the ability to detect tension behind politeness. It is the ability to see fear hiding inside arrogance. It is the ability to recognize when someone is performing sincerity. It is the ability to spot the invisible transaction beneath the visible interaction. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." That quote carries urgency. Fools often wait until reality becomes undeniable. Wise people respond when the pattern is still small. Fools need the betrayal to be public, dramatic, and final. Wise people notice the drift early. Fools keep needing more proof because they are emotionally invested in denial. Wise people respect the first few pieces of credible evidence. This kind of intelligence requires honesty, because often The thing blocking your perception is not lack of information. It is your attachment to a comforting interpretation. You saw the envy, but you called it stress. You noticed the disrespect, but you called it personality. You felt the inconsistency, but you called it confusion. You observed the power play, but you called it miscommunication. You sensed the distance, but you called it busyness. And sometimes your softer interpretation was compassionate, but sometimes it was self-protection from the pain of admitting what was obvious. That is why one of the hardest acts of intelligence is naming reality without softening it into something easier to emotionally survive. Dangerously smart people are willing to say, "This person is not confused, they are inconsistent." This is not love. This is attachment mixed with control. This is not humility. This is image management. This is not concern. This is intrusion. This is not support. This is dependency dressed as loyalty. This is not closeness. This is access without accountability. Can you see how powerful that is? Language shapes perception. Perception shapes decisions. Decisions shape destiny. If you keep naming a dangerous thing with harmless language, you will keep staying in places that slowly break you. This applies far beyond relationships. In careers, it means recognizing when an organization rewards performance publicly but undermines people privately. In friendships, it means noticing who celebrates your pain more than your progress. In leadership, it means seeing when charm is being used to bypass scrutiny. In faith spaces, it means recognizing when spiritual language is being used to control shame or silence. In your own inner life, it means admitting when you are procrastinating out of fear, not waiting for the right time. Perception also means learning to read outcomes, not intentions, outcomes. What happens to people around this person over time? Do they become stronger, clearer, freer, more honest, more stable? Or do they become smaller, more anxious, more dependent, more confused, more self-doubting? That tells you a lot. A tree is known by its fruit, and so is a person, and so is an environment, and so is an ideology, and so is a relationship, and so is a habit. Dangerously smart people don't merely ask, "How does this sound?" They ask, "What does this produce?" That question alone can save years of your life, because polished words can hypnotize, but outcomes expose. Once you become committed to seeing clearly, you will lose certain illusions. Some relationships will feel different, some rooms will feel darker, some compliments will sound emptier, some opportunities will reveal hidden costs. Some personalities that once impressed you will start looking fragile and performative. This can feel lonely at first. Clarity often is. But it is better to be lonely in truth than comfortable in delusion. Lesson 7. The highest form of intelligence is disciplined self-mastery. After all the talk about people, power, motives, patterns, and deception, we come to the deepest lesson of all. The greatest battle is still within, because you can understand others and still be undone by yourself. You can read motives and still sabotage your calling. You can spot manipulation and still be ruled by insecurity. You can become socially perceptive and still lack the discipline to govern your own life. And without self-mastery, intelligence turns into scattered potential. This is the ruthless truth. Many people are not failing because they lack talent. They are failing because they cannot govern appetite. They cannot govern attention. They cannot govern speech. They cannot govern time. They cannot govern mood. They cannot govern desire. They cannot govern ego. They cannot govern impulse. Machiavelli wrote, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." That quote is deeper than it sounds. It means survival and success require adaptability, and adaptability requires self-command. If your habits are fixed, your ego is brittle, your emotions are untrained, and your pride is allergic to correction, life will keep outgrowing you. Self-mastery means you can delay gratification. You can stay focused when your feelings wander. You can keep working when applause disappears. You can hold your tongue when your ego wants the last word. You can remain disciplined when no one is watching. You can choose what is right over what is immediately relieving. You can walk away from what feels good but weakens you. This is where intelligence becomes rare, because most people want insight without discipline. They want transformation without structure. They want a new life without new habits. They want clarity while feeding confusion. They want peace while entertaining chaos. They want respect while lacking internal order. But a mind without mastery becomes a prison. You know what to do, but you don't do it. You see the pattern, but you return anyway. You understand the consequence, but you still indulge the impulse. You hear wisdom, but you keep outsourcing your choices to emotion. That inner split is exhausting, and many people live there for years. Maybe that's you in some area of your life right now. You are not confused about everything. In fact, deep down, you already know what is draining you. You know which habit is thinning your power. You know which attachment is weakening your clarity. You know which distraction is eating your time. You know which form of comfort is costing you your future. The question is not always, what should I do? Sometimes the real question is, why do I keep betraying what I already know? That is where self-mastery begins, with ruthless honesty. Not shame, not self-hatred, not dramatic promises. Honesty. Honesty about your appetites. Honesty about your excuses. Honesty about the environments that keep pulling you backward. Honesty about what version of yourself keeps taking over when you're tired, lonely, afraid, or bored. A dangerously smart person studies themselves with the same seriousness they study the world. They know their strengths, but they also know their loopholes. They know their ideals, but they also know their escape routes. They know what they believe, but they also know when they are most likely to compromise. This level of awareness is powerful because it closes the gap between intention and action. And here is the beautiful part. Self-mastery does not make you less human. It makes you more whole. It means your soul is no longer dragged around by every craving. Your attention is no longer auctioned off to every distraction. Your peace is no longer at the mercy of every unstable person. Your future is no longer being negotiated by your weakest impulse in your weakest moment. That is freedom. And freedom is one of the sharpest forms of intelligence there is. Bringing it together. So what do these 7 ruthless lessons really teach us? They teach us that dangerous intelligence is not about becoming manipulative. It is about becoming unmanipulable. It is not about becoming heartless. It is about refusing to let your heart live blind. It is not about distrusting everyone. It is about learning how to trust wisely, speak carefully, observe deeply, feel fully, and still remain anchored. Let's say them plainly. First, stop taking words seriously when patterns tell the real story. Second, understand that people are driven less by logic than by emotion, ego, fear, and self-interest. Third, never reveal everything too early. Mystery protects power. Fourth, master your emotions, because if they can provoke you, they can steer you. Fifth, remember that most people do not respect what comes too easily. Sixth, learn that intelligence is not merely knowing more, but seeing what others are pretending not to see. Seventh, understand that the highest form of intelligence is disciplined self-mastery. If you live these lessons, you will begin to notice a change. You will speak less, but understand more. You will chase less, but attract more respect. You will explain less, but move with greater confidence. You will react less, but see more clearly. You will trust more slowly, but love more wisely. You will stop confusing intensity with truth. You will stop confusing access with intimacy. You will stop confusing charm with character. You will stop confusing your empathy with a requirement to tolerate dysfunction. And maybe most importantly, you will begin to feel safer inside your own mind. That matters more than people realize. Because one of the greatest forms of suffering is being disconnected from your own discernment. Knowing something is off, but talking yourself out of it. Feeling the warning, but overriding it. Seeing the signs, but staying because of guilt, nostalgia, desire, or fear. That inner betrayal wears the soul down. But when your perception sharpens and your self-respect deepens, peace starts returning. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become harder to deceive. And there is something sacred about that. Especially if you have spent years feeling misunderstood, emotionally overextended, or slow to realize what others were doing. Especially if you have been the person who loved deeply, gave sincerely, forgave repeatedly, and still ended up being the one left confused. Especially if you are tired of learning every lesson the hard way. You are not weak for having a heart. You are not foolish for having hope. You are not broken because you wanted to believe the best. But now it is time to add steel to your softness, eyes to your empathy, wisdom to your love, discipline to your intelligence. Because the world does not only need good people, it needs good people who can see. And maybe this is your season to become one of them. The kind of person who cannot be easily baited. The kind of person who cannot be cheaply flattered. The kind of person who notices what others ignore. The kind of person who protects their peace without losing their soul. The kind of person who understands that power without character is dangerous, but character without discernment is vulnerable. Become the person who carries both.
Ending.
So if this lesson spoke to something deep in you, don't ignore that. Sometimes the truths that sting the most are the ones your soul has been waiting to hear. Maybe this is your sign to slow down and watch more carefully. To stop explaining away what keeps wounding you. To stop offering unlimited access to people with limited integrity. To stop letting emotion make decisions wisdom should make. To stop betraying your own discernment just to keep the peace. You don't need to become colder. You need to become clearer. You don't need to become more feared. You need to become more anchored. And you don't need to lose your heart. You need to protect it with intelligence. As Machiavelli said, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Make sure the few who experience the real you are people who earned that privilege. If you want more deep lessons like this on power, psychology, discipline, discernment, and becoming mentally unshakable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And if this message hit home, leave a comment with the lesson that spoke to you most. I'd love to hear which one stayed with you.